Monday morning, 9 a.m. the phone rings. ABC Insurance, how can I help you? Mrs. Jones says, hi, I'd like to speak to Bruce Weinstein. The secretary says, well, I'm sorry to inform you, Mr. Weinstein passed away over the weekend. Is there anything I can help you with? She says, no. She hangs up the phone. Next day, Mrs. Jones calls the office again. Hi, I'd like to speak to Mr. Weinstein. Receptionist is a little confused, like, I'm sorry to tell you, but Mr. Weinstein passed away over the weekend. Is there anything we can help you with? He says no. Third day, Mrs. Jones calls back. I'd like to speak to Mr. Weinstein. She says, ma'am, I'm not sure what I can do to help you, but I informed you that Mr. Weinstein has passed away. Is there anybody else that we can get to help you? You keep calling in. She goes, no, I just like the way that sounds.
Oh my gosh, that is so funny.
I never wanted to be that kind of advisor.
No.
Okay? So we're here today to talk about, are you selling or are you solving? Are you the type of person that your client really doesn't want to work with, but they stick with you, and they're actually pleased to find out that you passed away and have somebody else find you? Okay? So, for those who don't know me, my name is Bruce Weinstein. I've been a financial advisor and insurance agent since 1986. My wife Robin and I have started our own insurance exclusive agency this past November, and I'm also launching DFG. So we're going to talk about a few things today about selling versus solving. I'll talk about the way I put this case that generated a $400,000 commission, one case. And we're going to talk about kind of the do's and don'ts of networking, how to build out your own referral-based network. All right, and based on time, we'll kind of keep going. So anybody here a BNI member or participant? Anybody?
Former.
Not former?
Former, but in other groups.
Okay. So anybody not, who's not in BNI? Any reason why, besides my wife?
Currently not one.
Currently not in one? Any reason why?
No.
So those who were in BNI, what was the experience? Positive, what made you leave?
Oh, very positive. I just, I grew the group and.
It was your
wasn't a
group?
lot of- Not my group, no, it was
Okay.
just got old.
It got
So I
old.
found some other groups,
Okay,
same format, just,
right.
different.
So one of the things that I did, taking the BNI format and how I built a strong referral-based network and what I called my golden Rolodex, is I try and be a trusted advisor. And so I turned down no interaction with a client that asked for something. Do you do blank? Yes. Do you have so-and-so? Yes. I want to be the go-to person, the trusted advisor that my clients value and come to, which adds to the strength of the relationship. What's your value proposition? What do you do better than just selling commodities of insurance, right? And so the BNI, for me, I actually set up my own group over 20 years ago called the Trusted Advisors Group. And the difference is, and what I try and educate those who want to do a group, I had a conversation last week with a real estate agent that was looking to join one. We tend to be insurance agents, financial advisors, realtors, mortgage brokers. If there's an existing group, those spots are taken. You're never going to get in. And so BNI will then say, okay, Becky, get 8 of your friends and go set up your own group, right?
Yes, they will.
And pay them some nice hefty fees and pay them for their infrastructure. So I looked at that and said, you know what, I can do this better. I don't need to have those kind of expenses and fees, and I'm going to launch my own group. And the difference was, and what I encourage people who want to start their own group, is it comes from a higher level of intimacy. I know David since high school, we've been best friends. David is a CPA, and I say, you know what, David, we've been working together, let's start a group amongst our inner circle. And the difference with BNI is, if you're joining a group, you're thrust in literally 20 or 30 strangers, right? And so that one-on-one importance of getting to know and meet with people takes time to build that intimacy and that high level of trust. And you've all heard the line, everybody wants to work with people they know, like, and trust, right? So if I take, morning Tracy, if I take my top 10, 15, 20 business partners, strategic relationships, friends, colleagues, even clients, and say, look, this is what we're going to do together, the intimacy on day one is elevated tremendously versus a stranger group like a BNI, unless you're starting your own, right? We're bringing your own people in. And so with that intimacy, you get a much higher level of collaboration. And the basic rule of our group was, we don't take strays. BNI is going to bring anybody that's willing to pay dues and passes the credit card, validation test, and you're in the group, right? Doesn't matter whether they were good, doesn't matter if they got criminal history, doesn't matter what it is, and now you're being asked, entrust your best clients with these people. Morning, Victor. Come on in. Okay? So, the encouragement I have, and, building the golden Rolodex is to have those relationships forged and put your own group together. And so for me, that's what I've been doing for the last 18, 20 years, is I've had several different groups. We moved to Florida, started a whole new group, okay? And so you bring people in those specialties that you can trust, and then when your client says, David, do you do blank? Yeah, I do. And so you don't have to turn people away, because the second you turn them away, you lose any opportunity. So my basic rule is say yes to everything, all right? Working off some note cards. I'm not a script guy, so I'm just gonna keep using my cards. So, quick background story to kind of give you a sense of the society and the sales versus solving. So, 1986, so I was a computer science major, believe it or not, and I was terrible at programming, but I was really good at debugging. And I quickly identified myself as a problem solver, right? But my first job out of school was doing computer work, and I hated it. And I had a stockbroker at Payne Weber, and I'm like, what does this stockbroker do? What do these guys do? And I was giving him and feeding him all kinds of ideas, doing my own research, and he was just charging me these big commissions. So eventually I decided maybe I'll become a stockbroker, but I had no idea what a stockbroker did, okay? I had a family relative very high up at E.F. Hutton. Anybody old enough to remember E.F. Hutton? Okay, they're gone a long time. And here's probably why. So E.F. Hutton sends me for an interview, and they give me a packet about that thick, and it took me about 10 hours, and it was a psychological exam answering all kinds of sales questions. And guess who failed? What do I know at 23 about being a salesperson? Now, I've had paper routes, I've had lawn cutting services, snow shoveling, worked 2 jobs every summer. Maybe I sell, maybe I don't, but based on what they asked, would you rather sell art or go play golf? Those are the 2 questions. I'm not thinking sales, they just want sales answers, right?
Yeah.
So I get the results and like, listen, why don't you go sell cars for 6 months and come back and see us? Well, I'm undeterred. I take my resume, I drive down to Princeton, New Jersey. I lived about a half hour from Princeton, and I see brokerage offices on Main Street of Princeton. And I walk into Merrill Lynch. Anybody heard of Merrill Lynch? They still around? E.F. Hutton? So walk into Merrill Lynch, hand the receptionist my resume, I'd like to speak to somebody. Branch manager comes out, a little perplexed, looking at my resume. He's like, you just walked in the door? I said, yeah, I just walked in the door. He said, come on back. So the fact that I just walked in was already a win, right? I was cold canvassing, right? Again, it's the 80s, and they're pretty much hiring massive amounts of growth. My training class was 175 people for the month of September. So every month they were hiring 175 people. Now I jumped ahead, so obviously I got the position, right? But what Merrill did that allowed me to get the offer for the position was they sent me to New York, and we did a simulation for 3 hours. I was in a room, we had a table, a desk, a phone, and a packet of paper about this big. I had a brown ribbon and a brown marker. And you played stockbroker in a simulation for 3 hours. They would call, you'd answer the phone. Somebody would walk in, sit at your desk. Somebody would say, we're now selling recommending XYZ stock, and you had to pick up the phone and call somebody on the other end, dial 2, dial 5, and there'd be a manager in another room answering the phone and basically role-playing in a total cold situation, okay? And there was just piles of stuff. You had to work your way through this pile of stuff and activities. People left in 10 minutes. 10 minutes, people were getting up and leaving. And I was just, this is what a stockbroker does? This is what they do? And I just reveled in it, and obviously I got the position, okay? Now, over the years, I obviously have done a ton of insurance work, and we'll talk about this big case that I got. But the point of the story is how one organization, and we talk about this in hiring and scaling and growing practices, right? Like, what are you using? Your discs and your Nate does the red, blue, green, yellows, right? Is how are you assessing your people and what are you using? And so here I was, here's that typical case of, here's one organization's way of evaluating a person, and here's another's. They're out of business, they're still the top company in the world, basically, right? So how you position yourself, if you're those who are scaling and recruiting, is obviously important. It's not just always one measure, right? It's not always one best answer. All right, so we talked about B&I, we talked about intimacy, the referral building, the power groups, the golden Rolodex. Anybody like Chamber of Commerce, face-to-face groups, okay, go to the chamber breakfast. How many people are in your, what's your name?
Bill?
Bill, how many people in the group when you go to breakfast?
When it was in person, over 50.
Over 50?
Yeah.
Anybody have a bigger group than that? So I go to the Boca Chamber breakfast, yeah, how many?
Austin, probably a couple of hundred.
Couple hundred,
And it's
right?
divided into areas, so, but it's a lot of people.
Yeah. So the Boca Chamber was probably the most terrifying experience for me. You would think I'm a little more outgoing and personal, but I'm great talking to Victor one-on-one, but you put me in a big room with 300 people, it's ultimate freezing, right? And so part of it is my own personality, is I don't like to interrupt. You guys are all talking and powwow, and I'm supposed to walk over, hi, how are you, and introduce myself and interrupt these conversations, not my style, right? But it's a necessary evil, you gotta get out there and do it. So the do's and don'ts that I've, again, worked with and trained people and try and train myself is take a referral partner. Bring somebody to the event. So Sandra and I, we're gonna divide and conquer. We're gonna play some games. Let's see how many cards you can get. But Sandra's in a group, she's talking with David, she's talking with Elle, kind of gives me the nod. Hey, have you guys met Bruce? Right, I'm over here with Robin, I'm with Kelly. Sandra, come on over here. Hey, let me introduce Sandra to you. Okay, so these are some of the tips and techniques. A, you got the power referral groups, building up from intimacy. B, using the networking groups. But for me, it's a big fear factor. Like, I just hate it, I dread it. But I force myself, I sign up, I pay the $30 for breakfast, I get up at 6 a.m. and I get to the breakfast and I get a referral, a networking partner. Hey, Aaron, come on with me. Let's go divide and conquer and see what we can do. And so we actually sponsored a few years ago the new member orientation at the chamber. And it's exactly what I would tell people. It's like, look, you're gonna hate it, it's gonna suck, you're gonna be like, I can't wait to get home, your anxiety's gonna creep up, we're all feeling it. There's clicks, right? There's clicks in there that you're trying to penetrate as the new member, which goes back to my first part of setting up your own group, because now it's your clique, right? It's your group. But, and who saw Landon yesterday with his presentation? So he uses an octopus in a different way, but I talk about the octopus as well, is you have to have multiple marketing activities, whether it's your own group, Chamber of Commerce, now with social media, thanks to TCC, I've been very involved in social media, right? Told an old dog new tricks, and I get my birthday hat out. So having some fun with it, right? But if you think about back in the day, right, the Indian teepees, if you think about how is a teepee put into the ground and set up when the tribe settles and moves? Is a teepee stake 1 or 2 stakes, or is it 5 or 6? Right? So think of your marketing efforts as your own teepee stake. It's not just cold calling. It's not just sending out mailers. It's not just doing social media. It's not just doing referral groups. Okay, I'm probably in 5 or 6 different networking groups thanks to Zoom. It's a ton of activities, right? Meeting different people, setting up one-on-ones, getting those relationships strengthened to get referral partners. And now thanks to TCC and the stuff that we've been doing, Sandra's taught us, I'm getting 3 to 5 natural referrals inbound through social media coming our way. So, yeah. 8:45, right?
9:30.
Oh, 9:30. So those are some tips I wanted to share, the kind of the how-tos, the do's and don'ts, overcoming the fear of the room, right? I'm a big proponent of working smarter, not harder, right? I am a huge student of automation, right? The biggest thing that David helped me from day one was changing my CRM to a system that offered texting and voice messaging. Like, gotta have automation, right? When you're a small shop, even if you're a big shop, the more automation, the better, because it helps streamline, leverage your day, right? So I'm a big fan of that. I started my career cold calling. I eventually evolved to seminars. I did about 15, 20 years retirement planning seminars, high level, Ruth Chris dinners, 10,000 mail drops, right? $15,000, $20,000 budget. Probably made 5 times my money every time. Okay, would attract people to a whole financial planning workshop, very targeted audience, 58 to 62-year-olds, trying to get them to the finish line for retirement. That was my avatar, was my sweet spot of a client that I could offer the most services to, whether it was investments or insurance, long-term care, estate planning, whatever it was. And that's my next topic, is tools in your toolbox, right? You can't have enough tools in your toolbox. A couple of analogies I'll say is, you're selling screwdrivers and the person wants to buy a hammer. Well, you're selling the screwdrivers, right? You can't fit a square peg in a round hole. So the more you can offer, the more opportunities you can keep saying what to your client?
Yes.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. A friend of mine wanted to get into, he lost his job, he was in the television business. He calls me up, he says, I got an opportunity to sell long-term care. Just long-term care? Yeah, just long-term care. I said, so if they did life insurance, what happens? You're gonna walk out without a deal? You're not gonna get paid that day? I said, what if they need disability? What if they need Medicare, right? Like you're just selling one item, you're gonna limit yourself. If you're gonna get into the business, do as much as you can. Have that toolbox full, okay? Tied to that, always sharpen your tools, right? You're all here to sharpen your tools, hit breakout sessions, learn from other people. I sit in the room as much as I can. I come to the 8 o'clock sessions, I'm paying my money. I wanna learn. Sandra's gonna teach me something, Victor's gonna teach me something. You're gonna walk away with a nugget every time. You know, how many teeth are on a saw? Right, hundreds. So even if one is just getting sharpened every time you go, eventually you'll sharpen that and you'll be at the top of your game. And that's what I try and do, be at the top of my game. We did the octopus. All right, let's talk about my $400,000 case. Oh, you have my phone. How are we doing on time?
We're good.
Good.
Halfway.
Halfway? Oh, good.
Do you need it?
No. No. All right, so believe it or not, this is an annuity and insurance solution case, but it came from one of my retirement planning seminars. It was about 2003. Most unassuming couple. Never judge a book by a cover. I cannot tell you. I mean, if the guy had a straw in his mouth and a pair of overalls on, coming from South Central Jersey, Eastern Pennsylvania, you would not have thought this guy had the balance sheet that he had. He had a $5 million portfolio of stock. Most of it was one stock. Anybody here at First Union out of Philly? First Union stock? Yes, I know, Robin.
I've heard it.
He had an $8,000 cost basis, which means if he sold the stock from $8,000 and above is all tax exposure, which means capital gains, right? So the managers that he's had in place all these years never sold the stock, never diversified his portfolio, okay? So he's living on the dividends. He's about 50 years of age. He's living on the dividend of this one stock, right? It's $5 million of stock. Let's just say it was a 4% dividend, okay? And that's all he's living on. What happens if something happens to that stock? So one of the tools in my toolbox, one of the things that I did to educate myself is I went to a training course in Indianapolis in the 90s on charitable remainder trusts, which is very big in estate planning cases, especially in farmland areas, because you've got to keep the family farms in the generations to go, so you use these trusts to do that, okay? So I got educated on that, and I'm looking at this going, this is Moby Dick. This is Bigfoot walking in the door that nobody's ever gonna see, and other professional managers never identified this opportunity and left this person very vulnerable to such a heavily weighted stock position. So let me give you what happened to the stock, and then I'll tell you what I did. So Wachovia bought First Union, and then Wachovia failed 5 years later in 2008. That stock went from $60 to $1.20. Okay? I had a lot of stock. My stock lost 98% of its value, okay, from the high to the low. So imagine if this person never met me, didn't do what I'm about to tell you we did, kept that stock with that other person, $5 million literally would have become 2%, whatever 2% is, okay? And the dividend's gone and everything else, and so this person's been living on this money in his 40s and 50s, and now is gonna be financially devastated, right? So this is one of the reasons why you don't accumulate high concentrations like that, okay? So obviously we encourage this person to do it. So the strategy basically was this. Well, thank you. We gift, charitable remainder trust is a present value gift to your charity. In exchange for that, you get a present day tax deduction and you get a few years of tax-free income. But what you're allowed to get is a lifetime annuity stream. Everybody likes annuities, right? You get a lifetime annuity stream, in this case, calculated by the IRS at that point, was over 8%. So we just doubled his income stream from 4% to 8%, okay? Now, again, it's not the crowd necessarily, it was a variable annuity back in the day to do that, okay? And so here we are gifting $500,000, $5 million. The $5 million stays intact, we liquidate the stock. By doing it in charitable remainder trust, 0 capital gains tax. 28% capital gains, $5 million. What's that math? $1.4 million. So if he had sold it on his own, his $5 million is now 3.6. Now they're gonna reinvest 3.6, so his other manager never did that, right? Other advisors. The solution, gifting it, now you avoid the capital gains, okay? So now I have $5 million to reinvest. We put it into the annuity. Annuity generates an 8% income stream. We take some of that $400,000. Everybody know what an ILIT trust is? Irrevocable life insurance trust. Any insurance people here? Life insurance people here? No? My P&C crowd. Irrevocable life insurance trust is established and passes outside the estate, thus eliminating estate tax. Okay? So the trust owns the insurance. We buy a $5 million policy to replace the gift. Second to die, anybody know that term? So it's Robin knows all the terms. A second to die basically says, it's not when I go, it's when my wife goes, right? Whoever goes second will then trigger the death benefit. Okay, so we got a couple early 50s, based on 2 lives. It's about a $40,000 target premium. So we're taking 10% of that income stream, we're chopping it up to replace, 5 minutes? Okay. Chopping it up to replace the gift. What's the purpose of that? Well, again, state taxation levels have gone up, but back then it was still $600,000 per person. So a $5 million estate still has a $3.8 million estate tax exposure at upwards of 50%. So this person was looking at 1.4 million of capital gains, and they're looking at another 2 million of potential estate tax. We eliminated all of it. Now again, the government eliminated it later by raising the rates, but what I know in 2003 is all I can strategically give to a client, right? So it's smoke and mirrors, right? You're doing that. You ever wonder how the Kennedys and the Rockefellers and everybody, the Vanderbilts, keep all this money in their families? This is how. This is how. Okay, they're using the laws to the way that are allowed. So take advantage. Have tools in your toolbox, right? Get ready to rock and roll. So we gift the stock, sell the stock, take the income stream, buy the second to die. They both get approved, put the insurance in trust, so you have all this money moving in different directions. As the account grows, they get resets. That 8% is going up. So the market keeps moving, variable annuity, market goes up, income goes up, market goes down, they're still allowed their 8%, right? We've had several crashes along the way. I believe, I have to go back and remember, so how did I get the $400,000 commission? We got paid to sell the stock handsomely. Client doesn't see the other transactions, right? They don't see the commission on the annuity, they don't see the commission on the life insurance. So the only thing they're really bearing is the commission on the stock, right? So we took our commission on that. Discounted, but we took it. The annuity paid 6%, $300,000 with a 1% trail. $50,000 a year in renewal stream income. Wow. Okay, that's why people love variable annuities, right? Did I do the client the right thing? Did I solve a problem? Did I find pain they didn't even know they had because nobody was even telling them why they couldn't do what they did? They didn't understand any of it. So we solved a major problem. We identified a problem. You know, how many times you hear somebody go, and this happened to one of my fraternity brothers. He had a bike accident, fell, they sent him for chest x-rays, and oh, by the way, what's that spot on your lung? Oh, we don't like the way that looks. He doesn't get hit by that car and break a rib and go to the hospital, they don't find that lung cancer dot on his chest, right? So, same thing, if you don't ask questions and find out and understand your craft and help your client identify those areas of pain, you're solving or you're selling. Right? We all need to do business, we all need to make the sale, but the more you can help solve and identify problems, say, hey, listen, by the way, I'm seeing a problem here. Anybody ever told you blank? That's what we're here to do, right? Any questions? like a minute left. All right, so I have come up with and created, trying to figure this out in the next minute or two to describe it. So my shirt, my card, we're doing a webinar. There's a code on the back. I'm going to elaborate more on these topics. It's a free webinar. That's our gift to everybody coming. There's 2 nights to choose from in August, so it's already there. You can register. So I've always had this, again, I'm doing this 35 years. Destined for greatness has always just been in my head of my own perseverance. We don't have enough hours and alcohol in the room to go through some of those trials and tribulations, okay? There's a lot of what ifs, but I built a $100 million book of business. I was $1 million producer at the top of my game, and the short story is it all vanished, okay? We can't get into why today, but I'm happy to tell you. So we're starting over. I mean, our grind is real. We are starting from scratch. And so Mount DFG for me is, I've never wavered from what I've always viewed as, I'm destined for something bigger and better. I was making $400,000 a year and lost it. And I never deterred from, and Robin will attest to, don't cry.
I'm not crying, I'm filming.
To attest to is like, I still get up every day and I do my grind, okay? And people have said, you've got a story, you should tell it, you should get out there. I listen to the other coaches out there, like, you know, where do they hear this, right? You hear those stories, you hear Marlon, you hear these other people speak at these events, and you're like, I've got a good story. So I've tried to create a mentoring type of program. I'm working with new agents predominantly right now, helping them. I use the analogy of, think about a plane that needs to prepare for takeoff and have a certain amount of things done before they push away from that gate. So a new agent needs certain things done before they can push away and launch. And then they gotta not only push from the gate, they gotta start taxiing on the runway. What are those activities? What do they need to be doing? What's their grind? How do they get off the ground? How do they get liftoff, right? And that's the hardest part, is getting that momentum to get off the ground. That's that 2 to 3 year window, right? It's you just gotta keep grinding and figuring it out and pushing through those failures. Once you get liftoff, now can you establish your cruise control and your altitude, right? And so we all have these different phases in our careers. Some people are expanding and adding more and scaling up. Some people just happen being, what do they call them, solopreneurs, right? Just, you know, sole practitioners, and that's fine. But what's your airplane? Right? What's your journey like? So I've been a district manager, I've been a training manager, I've been a recruiting manager. So I've done a lot and helped mentor people over the years, and I kind of felt like part of my mission now in getting back in the industry was to try and do some mentoring. So that's what DFG is. I hope you like the name. You know, it's perseverance, it's determination, drive, fortitude, unwillingness to quit, and just being the best at what you do, whatever that is. Define your own greatness. And we can help you if you look at the logo. It's people helping people up, right? Let's get to the pinnacle together. You're not up there by yourself. You got others to help lift you up, right? So you come to events like this, you find your coaches, right? We were talking about your mentor, Tracy. Whoever helps you. I mean, right now for me, Coach Bird is just like, I'm a moth to that light. Like Coach Bird just triggered something in me, and that's why I'm here. I took that leap of faith. I committed to this last April after going to SWAT. I had no topic, no agenda, no logo, no name, no deliverables, right? What do we say? Fire, ready, aim, right? So thanks to you guys and your help and encouraging me there has done this, and it's just the culmination. So hope you can join me at the webinar. Again, it's free, and we're out of time, but thank you so much.